Hello and welcome back to Buggleskelly Station. I hope you're all well. It's been a while since I posted anything on here about model railways, but if you follow me on Twitter or Facebook you'll see that recently I sold Buggleskelly Mark 1, which was the layout I built a few years ago. It was just taking up space in the office, so I decided it's time to move on. It's given me space, to be able to do something that I wanted to do for a long time, and that is to venture into a different scale. So what I'm going to do is build a 009 layout, and it also means that I can do something I wanted to do for a long time and create a layout based on the Thomas Tank Engine original book series, the Railway series. As you can see from the map behind me, I've always been a massive fan of the Railway series. It's just something I grew up with the books and the original TV series, present Mattel abominations accepted. So yeah, here's the first update on my new model. Going to have both standard gauge, which obviously the Railway series engines, Thomas, Edward, those sort of characters would run on, and narrow gauge, which so far I have the only available models from Bachmann. I've got Skarloey, Renius and Rusty. So they're going to it's going to be based around those, and as any others come out in the series, obviously I'll add them to it. In Sodor lore, in Audrey's world, it should technically be Crover's Gate, which is the station where the two gauges meet, but in my head I wanted to do something where I'm imagining the Northwestern Railway had ventured further into the mountains, so as far as they could get really before it became too mountainous, and it's a station set there really. So I want to do something with the transfer of the minerals that are being brought out of the mountains. I know it was a slate railway, but it used to be that the narrow gauge engines would bring the trucks full of all the stones and slate. They'd tip it out into the standard gauge wagon, so that's what I wanted to show with this layout. So my first job has been to come up with a track plan. I had a basic idea before building the baseboards, but until I decided to put it all together, I wasn't 100% sure how it would work. It's obviously been a few days trial and error to get it to a workable stage. One of the main obstacles has been getting enough difference in height between the tracks, as I really want the rabbit warren effect of trains going into a tunnel and then appearing up a higher, level somewhere else. Until I got some of the Woodland Scenics foam risers in place, it was hard to gauge how well the locos would take to the inclines, but I should be able to get some decent variation in height. I used these really useful Pico templates instead of buying the points to start with. It's just allowed me to chop and change the design as I've gone along. Another big decision was how to make the platforms level for both gauges. In the TV show, they cop out a bit, I think, by showing steps up to the standard gauge from the narrow gauge. It's obviously easier the way they used to build the sets, because they'd reuse the bases and just lay things on top. So I can see why they did that. Because in the books, it looks as though both railways have the same height at platforms. Obviously one side would have been higher than the other. I've tested a few variations with different blocks of ply and balsa wood, and I think by raising the narrow gauge side up, this should work well. In real life, it seems there was no defined height for narrow gauge platforms. Some stations have none at all, so I think it should be fine with a small drop down from the carriages. You'll notice I've set one of the baseboards lower than the others. This is a last minute decision really. I knew I wanted a raised bridge over a lake. When testing with the foam risers, I couldn't get the desired height in the space that was available. So by lowering this section down, I gained another 2 inches height without having to raise the track any higher over that distance. So it was worth having the flexibility at the planning stage. And these wooden blocks are just temporary, so all the heights will be made up from foam risers or proper plywood stages, like this one here that I'm fitting, basically for areas where I know I don't have to fit point motors or access anything underneath. I built up the level using thin ply and wooden blocks, and then I just weighed it down to dry. I've also ordered, all the points and everything just last night, so the next big job will be fitting points and point motors. I haven't even got around to fitting point motors in Buggleskelly yet, but I thought I'd rather get everything wired up properly at the start of this layout, as it'll be impossible to fit them once most of the scenery's in. And this is the track plan as I've got it, so it'll very likely change again as I go along, but for now I've got all the elements I want in there. There's a small station with both gauges next to a transfer siding for narrow gauge wagons to tip into the standard gauge ones. The inspiration for doing this, other than the stories in the book, is because I've commissioned a new North Western Railway mineral wagon, and I'd like to showcase that on the model. That's due to come into my shop at the end of September for any 00 gauge layout, so I just thought it looked really cool to have a line of those behind the station ready to be filled up, and I'm going to try and work out a way of actually automating a way for the narrow gauge tipper wagons to tip into those, so we'll see what I can come up with. Moving along from there, we have the mountain road, which I plan to copy from the TV series as a nod to that location, and then the mountain hiding the loop makes up the biggest board. It hides the loop down to the lower level, and I think the mountain will probably have a castle or castle ruin on top of it, which might help with the layout name as well, so I'm going to look through the maps and read the Audrey's books and just see if I can come up with something feasible to fit in there. At the bottom of the mountain will be a small yard with a loco shed and water tower, and then finally on the small board at the front will be a scenic section with a wooden trestle bridge. I know it's not prototypical for the UK, but I've always loved the look of them, so I'm using a bit of artistic license there. I just think it would look really good on a narrow gauge railway. So thanks for watching. I hope you found that interesting. That's one of the cats that likes to destroy model railways. Thanks for watching. Hope you found that interesting. If there's anything you want to know how I did things, feel free to put a question in the comments. I mean, I don't profess to be an expert on any of this, especially woodwork. As you can see, it's a bit of a slapdash approach, but I've just learnt by watching other YouTubers, and I've built a couple of layouts in the past, so I've learnt what not to do. But yeah, if you want to find out how to do anything, feel free to ask, and I'll try and answer if I can. But yeah, keep following on Twitter, Facebook. I'll put all the links in the description, and on YouTube, and we'll update as I go along. So thanks very much.